Yep. So exchange our code for a token. This uses the client secret. Also, the token URL is called. We get back a token, and then with that token,
so that token is serializable. You can dump it in JSON into a database if you need that token later for whatever reason, like you're downloading files from Dropbox or something. So, but in this case, though, we don't need to save the token. We just immediately throw it into a token source and then use that token source to make an HTTP client, an authenticated HTTP client.
so I'm a little confused, like the difference between a token and a token source. It starts to become like, why not also have a token origin or a token,
So a token's a static actual token.
Yeah.
The token source is a way of getting a token for now. And so the token source can so the OAuth token source you get from the config will do things like, if your token's expired, ask for a new one from the OAuth provider.
All right, so a token is a struct with access token, token type, refresh token, expires. Is a token that authorizes and authenticates a request, is the type of token. The type method returns either bearer or default. Refresh is a token that's used by the application to refresh access token if it expires. And then we have token source returns a token source, which a token source is returns a token or an error. Token must be safe for concurrent use by multiple Go routines. Return token must not be modified.
So if you go look at the token again, the token, what you need to send on every request is the access token. But the access token will expire due to the expiry at the expiry time, which should be like an hour or two by default. But you may have gotten a refresh token from the server. And so the token source might see, oh, we're after the expiration date. Let's make a call back to the OAuth provider with the refresh token to get a new access token.
And this is the access token?
So token source token source just says, give me an access token, and it'll do whatever it needs to in the background to actually get said access token.
Because token source is an interface, so anything with this method is a token source.
Yeah.
And token is, let's see, need to have a token method that gives a pointer to a token and an error. And yeah, I'm not getting it.
Yeah, so your access token expires, but the
Yeah.
refresh token can be used to get a new access token.
Okay.
So the token source is just when you call token, it gives you back the access token if it hasn't expired yet, or it uses refresh token to get a new access token and returns that.
So I don't know what I'm going to get when I ask for.
So once you have the token source, you ask for a token.
When I do the exchange, I get a token, and this could be a token which, and it's a type pointer to a token,
Which is the struct.
which is this. And so in there, I might not have this, I might have this. Or in there, I might have this, but not have that. And then when I call token source, right, like it's not even like here, OAuth token source. I'm just asserting that.
So it's using the config because to use the refresh token, it might need the token URL from your config and your client secret to do the refresh, to use the refresh.
But it seems like this isn't a method,
It's
right?
an interface.
It's an interface. And so here it's almost like I'm calling a method and passing in these arguments, right? Because it's like, right?
So yeah, it's creating something that implements token source based off of that token and some parameters from your config.
Is this assertion?
No. Nope, it's config.tokenSource is a function.
Oh,
So that's a type token source. Yep.
And then we also have config token source, which takes in that and gives me back a token. Oh man, token source. All right, so I call token source, it gives me back type token source.
Yep.
I got it. And that type just means that I am fulfilling this interface, which means I've got a method token, which could be called, gives me a pointer to a token.
Yeah.
Right? So when I call token source, I'm passing in context in my token, and
that token might have an access token, might have the refresh token.
Right.
You don't have to care.
I don't know. And so when I do token source, it does that and then gives me back a token source, which means I have a method that I could call token, which gives me a pointer to a token. Okay, so it's just like a check. We're not sure if you got X, we're not sure if you got Y, you know, but if you call this method, we're going to make sure you have one that works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that like all that with all OAuth, I wonder? Or is this
Yeah.
just like the Go implementation?
So that's the Go implementation, but all OAuth has the access token and refresh token
Okay.
thing. So
And then you should, maybe in other implementations, you'd have to code that other stuff to check which one do you have, how do I turn this into a
Yeah.
living token?
yeah,
By living, I mean one that works, right?
yeah, the access one.
access, right?
Yep.
So we could have one that's access that's expired, or a refresh one came through, which will give us an access one, which is current.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. 80%,
So
90%.
so yeah, that's token source. So once you got the token source, now you can create an HTTP client that uses that token source to authenticate all calls through it.
Oh, right. So I get my client, and then I make a call from the client, and this is not using going through the person who's requesting this. This is just going from my server to their server. It's where a client get user profile. Is that right? Did I
Yeah.
say that right? And so we get the response body close, read the response body, get a byte slice, and then if we're not in OK status code, deal with that, and then we're printing the byte slice, and we're writing that back. And what we're writing back here is
Just what Amazon sent back. So we're just trying to look at the JSON right
okay,
now.
and then we looked at the JSON. Let's see what that looks like. And so I'm going to do bash.
Yep.
And
So this is
CD
probably going to be its own
documents.
video, kind of separate from the
Yeah,
hands-on
we should
exercise
do a
4.
little bit of review. And then this one is Golang arc and go run star.go. Yeah. Allow. I don't know why I need allow. It seems like it's running anyhow. Log in with Amazon.
Yeah, I think the local host doesn't need you to allow it, but if I were to try to connect to you, I would need it.
So it gave me
So Amazon sends back email,
name, and then my user ID.
Yep.
So my Amazon account number.
Yep, which that Amazon user ID is unique to you and it will never change. Like you can change your name on Amazon, you can tell Amazon you're using a different
Yeah,
email,
yeah,
but your
yeah.
Amazon user ID never changes. So that's a safe thing to use as an ID that connects to your the local
Okay.
ID.
And so this is like, so we got our notes here. We can now call exchange takes in. And so exchange was
Right,
right
there.
there. And then that gave us back a token, right? And
Yep.
we don't know if we have, and the token is, we don't know if we have an access token that is expired.
So yeah, it should be that it gives you an access token and maybe gives a refresh token as well, but you don't really have to care too much with the token source. It'll figure it out.
Refresh token. So we call token source,
Yep.
which is a method that will give us back
A token source.
value of type token source, which has a method that called token that can be called to return a token. Right? A little bit of like, oh.
Return a
All right.
valid token.
All right, good notes. And then we called that. We got back token source, and then from there we could call new client and make a call to get a client. Now using the client, make a GET request, right?
Yep. So yeah, once you got the client, you can make whatever calls you need to their API, which is unique to whatever your provider provides. So in this case, for Amazon to get their user profile, you make a GET request to that URL.
Yeah, and that wasn't either of these, right?
No,
this was the first one, and then this was the second one that was used, right?
Yep. So yeah, that's neither one of those. It's a completely separate endpoint.
And this endpoint here, token URL, was called when we did
Exchange.
exchange.
Yep,
Where's
and
exchange?
it's
Okay.
also used by token source if
Okay.
you've only got a refresh token.
Okay, so that's called token URL. So token URL is used by exchange and also token source. So where's exchange?
So there's exchange.
Calls token URL. Right, calls to token URL. Is that right?
Yep.
Exchange does, and then also token source calls to token URL. And then call new client to get a new client. And now use the client, make a GET request to OAuth 2 provider. This will be some endpoint from OAuth 2 provider, right?
Yep.
Not already,
Yeah. Just
established in code.
Yep. Yeah, and so this process would also be how if you got like access to someone's GitHub, or not GitHub, like Dropbox or something through OAuth, and you wanted to get files from their Dropbox, you'd use the same OAuth process to get an authenticated client, and then that authenticated client can be used to call any of the endpoints that Dropbox provides in their API.
And so when I did all that, we got this client ID. So that's what we
Yep.
have so far.
So,
right?
yeah, for
Now we're gonna
login,
build
you
on
want a
that.
client. Yeah, for login, you want some user ID.
Now we have the user ID of the user on the OAuth 2 provider's site, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's a little bit of review. In the next video, we're going to have hands-on exercise number 4, solution continued.
Yeah. So I made a little thing up above.
Does that make sense there?
Yeah.
And we didn't change any of the code, so there's nothing to tag.
Correct.
But this is video number 72. All right, that was totally helpful for me. Get my mind back in the game. Totally helps. Thanks. You got anything more you want to contribute to that?
Nope.
You want a chocolate?
No, thank you.
Do you hear?
Please reach through your screen.
It'll be Willy Wonka style. All right, see you in the next video.